The ad hoc committee evidence leader, Norman Arendse, pressed Police Minister Senzo Mchunu on the final moments leading up to the disbandment of the political killings task team. Arendse demanded clarity on whether any formal consultations or reviews were held before the unit was shut down. In response, Mchunu admitted that since 2022, there had been no substantive discussions to extend the political killings task team's mandate despite ongoing political violence in the provinces like KwaZulu-Natal. Mchunu maintained that the task team was always intended to be temporary.
Did you get into a room with General Masemola, with Lieutenant General Kwanazi, with Lieutenant General Kumalo, who's the project leader of that team, to discuss the disestablishment with the team or why it should continue, and for them to do a motivation? What we do know is that there was this meeting on the 1st of November where you made some remarks about it, but from the minute, unless the minute is not a full recordal of what happened, this was not a discussion about the PKTT. This seems to be a passing reference to the PKTT in the context of the organizational structure of the police, and the only reference that General Masemola makes is to say, by the way, PKTT is not a unit that's part of the organizational structure. It's a task team. We don't know. We didn't have the minute, unfortunately, before us when he testified. Maybe we'll put that question to him in writing and get his response, what he meant. So there's only passing reference to it. It's not a meeting where it was discussed. It was mentioned, and General Sabia had also mentioned the other night. No, it was, well, I'm not even sure now whether it was mentioned or discussed in November. We took issue with him, but perhaps to give him a little bit of credit, there seemed to have been mention of it in November 2024 before the decision was taken to disestablish the task. So can we accept from you there was no focused discussion on the disestablishment of the task team before 31 December 2024?
Well, Senior Counsel, I'm not sure about focused, because there's nothing that suggests that on the 1st of November, nobody was focused on what was going on there. But if you mean that there was no day where we said this day we're going to be discussing the National Political Killings Task Team, I would say yes, there was no such a day. There was no day to discuss the National Intervention Team, the National Intervention Unit, even though it has not been disbanded. But I'm saying, as a principle, you would discuss all the teams and so on if there was a day for them, and I'm sure at some point would come. And as it happens, you now know that there was a meeting that came after the disbandment.
Police Minister Senzo Mchunu told members of parliament and members of the committee that the political killings task team were aware from the beginning that the roles were temporary. Testifying at Parliament's ad hoc committee, he explained that the unit operated under a fixed mandate and its repeated extensions were purely administrative, meant to keep investigations going while formal structures were being finalized. He cited bureaucratic delays, budget constraints, and vetting procedures as reasons for the slow transitions of a political killings task team's members into a permanent police role. In a pointed remark, Mchunu said resources must be used effectively, arguing that continuously funding a single unit, even one that performs well, won't solve broader issues like gangsterism, particularly in areas like the Cape Flats.
So in practice, Senior Counsel, when they established with their right hand these specialized units, they defined the tasks because they are specialized units. and infuse that into the new structure. And then in their mind, it would gradually replace, because you can't have them, you can't have both of them and be accountable in terms of public funds. You can't establish new units, but then you keep NPKTT, and that doesn't mean that NKP and National Political Killings Task Team was no longer working or was not effective. It just meant that they knew that this is temporary. They knew they needed something sustainable that will take to the future. They knew that you needed something that will cover the whole of the Republic of South Africa, not just KwaZulu-Natal. That's the central argument in the new setup that they were talking about.
So what you're saying, although it's not expressly mentioned in that communication, that is implicit in the plan or understood in the plan, that as you establish these new specialist units, the others
not even in my head, but it's written down that it would be there would be a phase in, and the reason why they kept on signing extensions, it was because the process of establishing the units into their fully fledged position took some time. That's why they extended the team.
Police Minister Senzo Mchunu told Parliament that every crime in South Africa has a name and a surname, and revealed new intelligence deployments to tackle gangsterism and drug networks in the Western Cape. Mchunu said this principle guides his approach to law enforcement, emphasizing that criminal activity is not random but traceable to individuals and networks. He revealed that he had instructed National Police Commissioner General Fannie Masemola to deploy crime intelligence operatives to the Western Cape following a surge in drug trafficking, gang-related violence and organized crime. The Western Cape has recorded the highest number of gang-related murders in recent months, with over 260 cases logged in the last quarter of 2024 alone. Mchunu said the situation demanded urgent intervention.
At one point, I held a virtual meeting with the National Commissioner for an hour. I counted, it was 1 hour, the two of us, virtual. And I say, National Commissioner, I can't tolerate what is happening in the Western Cape on an ongoing basis. I'm now quite a number of months into the portfolio, and I'm not going to be able to answer in 12 months what is it that I've done in that particular period. Please, let's do this. Deploy intelligence, crime intelligence to the Western Cape. I want names of people who are killing people in the Western Cape. I want name and surname through intelligence services. Go and do it. After you gather all the necessary information, then you can deploy specialized forces, sub-specialized teams. They now have the name, they know where and so on and how, both on drugs and others. Because crime has a name and a surname. Each committed crime in South Africa has a name and surname.
SABC News reporter Abra Barbier joins us now for an update on what had transpired in the testimony there of Senzo Mchunu. Abra, good evening. Thank you so much. Perhaps let's zoom in on what seems to be the pivotal moment the decision seems to have been made, or at least according to Senzo Mchunu, and that is a meeting of the 1st of November 2024. He read from the minutes of those meetings. It was noted by Honorable Kola of the committee that those meetings minutes were not signed, so its authenticity is yet to be determined. But it seems like the meeting of the 1st of November is an important piece of evidence in what will be the justification of Senzo Mchunu here. What do we know about that meeting?
Oliver, what I can tell you is that the minister took complete responsibility for the decision to have the PKTT disbanded. He explained why he made the decision. He said it was not a political decision. It had more to do with operational matters within the SAPS in terms of resources, in terms of where units are needed more. And in terms of funds, of course, he says that the PKTT only solely operated in KZN and they were focused on political killings, as we know. But he said the percentage of political killings that take place basically is very small in comparison to other murders that take place in the country, especially when it comes to gang violence, especially in areas in the Western Cape, on the Cape Flats. So these are the reasons that he was giving for justifying, this is what he was saying to justify why he took the decision. In terms of the meeting, it was very unclear to me whether he, exactly who was in that meeting. He did eventually say that there are only two people who were with him when it came to making the decision. That was his chief of staff, Mr. Nkabinde, and then also Advocate Pikoli, who looked at the minister's letter just to make sure that everything was in order. But as he said to the evidence leader, Advocate Norman Arendse, don't look any further than me. I am the one who took that decision and I stand by it. Oliver?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about what seems to have been an innocuous moment, but seems one that I think is rather significant. In that Senzo Mchunu kept referring to the National Political Killings Task Team and not just the Political Killings Task Team. That members of the committee probe him further on that distinction.
Oliver, I did not pick that up. So I cannot respond to that. I heard him referring to the political task team, the PKTT, and he was speaking specifically about KZN, and that is when the comparison with other murder rates in other parts of the country came in.
Yeah. There was a point where there was a conversation around resource constraints as being the motivating factor for bringing the political killings task team to an end. And of course, then the question around the duplication of functions that are already performed by other units of SABC, which are permanent units of it, such as murder and robbery. And then there was the question around when the decision was made, who was part of making the decision, and when the instruction was being issued out. The word immediately there came under question, particularly by Julius Malema, who pointed out, who wanted to know who had inserted the word immediately for the political killings task team to be disbanded into the letter that was issued to the office of the National Commissioner. Can you give us more details around how that unfolded?
Oliver, you must remember that we are spending very long days in this committee, and the SABC has two groups of journalists covering it. My colleague Bulalani obviously covered the portion that you are referring to. I took over later on in the day. So I think that's where we are missing each other here. They did not speak about that letter much when I heard them speaking about the tone of the letter. They wanted to know why the tone of the letter was the evidence leader wanted to know why the tone of the letter was as harsh as what it was, in reference to using words like urgent and immediate. And the minister conceded, okay, fine, maybe he could have used a better tone, but I think at the time that the letter was written, that's not what he was considering. Oliver?
Yep. And the committee, of course, adjourned relatively early today, and that was unusual for what we've seen over the last couple of days. Is there any indication about what is expected to be continued on tomorrow?
If MPs had it their way, they would have pushed through till much later tonight, because what happens usually is the evidence leader spends one day with whoever is being questioned, and then the next day MPs take over. And it's usually when the MPs take over that you see those long hours that they put in. For some reason, it was split today. So Norman Arendse has today and tomorrow. The committee starts at 10 o'clock. And they are expected, according to the chairperson, but I never ever take it at his word, because they've never ever really stuck to their times. He said they are hoping to finish at around 1 o'clock tomorrow. And then as of next week, the MPs will then have a chance to then question the minister. But as I was telling my colleague Sihle Mkize, who was the video journalist who joined me in the committee today, The format of Senzo Mchunu's questions, it seems to be different because he is a regular to Parliament. He's the first politician to appear before the committee, so he knows his role and responsibilities when it comes to appearing before Parliament, and that might be why he has availed himself for a longer period of time than others who are busy with operational duties outside of Parliament.
Yeah,
Oliver?
Abra, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. Abra Barbier coming to us live there from Parliament.